Hello you! What are you looking at? Today you will learn how fish can live without a body, how an active volcano became a home for the sharks, and how fish learn to cheat death. Let's go! Some creatures like salamanders can regrow lost body parts. Octopus tentacles may exist for some time without the octopus itself, but it isn't so surprising. The other thing is underwater zombies. I'm serious, there are a lot of videos on the internet about the fish that survived the attack of some predator and stayed alive although they lost an impressive part of their body. And we don't know how they can move. Okay, let's say someone took a piece of this fish. The damage is in the back, so probably vital organs are safe. But what about the fish which lost most of its body or a head? Who can live without the head? Even the Gryffindor house ghost had one, although he wasn't alive. Well, probably the size is very important. In this case, you're unlikely to meet a headless shark, but animals with the relatively small brains may stay alive for several weeks, while a large part of their brainstem remains. Do you remember Mike the headless chicken? Same story here. Unfortunately, fish don't have any backup. So if they have serious damage, there are only two possible options: infection and death, or yeah. This zombie fish was able to cure the bite mark. Although it's like 1/6 part of its body, it seems that fish are more resilient than people usually think of them. Maybe even too resilient. You think there's no problem with that. Yes, there are a lot of ways to kill zombies. You probably know some of them, but what can you do with zombie fish if it doesn't die even in the oven? So let me get out of here and you're dead? Got it. And what about living with a hole in your head? Yes, it's quite possible if you're a crucian carp and look like a character from the Silent Hill. Look, it just doesn't have any eyes. Literally, I can see what's happening on the other side of his head. Also, this crucian carp is black, probably to look more threatening. No one really knows why this fish actually started looking like this. Maybe because fire trucks were washed in the lake and harmful substances caused a mutation, and it's quite real. Although it's impossible to predict how fish will react to these conditions, some of them are able to live in the most terrible conditions but feel good. For example, the catfish of Chernobyl had survived the catastrophe and just had become smaller, emitting high-temperature acidity. Sharks that chose the Kavach volcano in the Pacific Ocean as their home life in such conditions. By the way, Kavach is a very active submarine volcano that actually does some activities all the time. No one except stubborn bacteria can live here, but in 2015 scientists found sharks in the volcano. They were floating gently in hot muddy water with incredibly high acidity, and they were rather comfortable. It looks like fish really have the ability to survive in the most extreme conditions, such as huge depths inside the volcano. In space, like many other animals, fish were boarded on ISS, and they quickly adapted to the conditions of weightlessness. It took a total Alice 3 days to understand how to swim in space, and Japanese rice fish even became the first invertebrate who made it in weightlessness. It even got its ordinary offspring, and although many creatures were in space or in weightlessness, not all of them could boast of such speed of adaptation. For some of them, it even was a very difficult challenge. But why did fish feel good? It's time to start speculating about alien descendants. Alas, there's no conspiracy. Fish are animals that spend their lives in water in a state similar to weightlessness, so almost nothing changed for them. Okay, what's next? Fish are almost naturally born astronauts. Fish don't die if they lose most of their body. They can live in impossible conditions and can even bear freezing. That's a real fact. Many fish freeze just to wake up later and feel like they did before. Who else except them and Captain America can boast of such abilities? Tardigrades. In 2016, Japanese scientists unfroze a tardigrade that was found in Antarctica 30 years ago. The creature has successfully adapted to life and even got absolutely normal offspring. Anyway, tardigrades are absolutely unique creatures. There's no one to compare with them. But what about people? Nothing is working with cryonics, although scientists are trying very hard. I mean, you can freeze a person or part of their body, but it's difficult to unfreeze it and get it back to normal. Fast freezing is dangerous for living cells because ice forms in them and destroys important structures. After the unfreezing process, this organism will literally be broken on a cellular level. The slow freezing is also dangerous because of dehydration, but fish can do it, so you can be the higher being and own the entire planet, but without special proteins, you can't survive the freezing. Antarctic fish, as well as some other species, produce special proteins that help them to unfreeze. These proteins prevent ice formation in the body fluids and influence the freezing point of blood, so fish can survive even the most extreme temperatures. We can say that this frozen fish looks like jelly from the outside. That's why a goldfish placed in liquid nitrogen remains alive if we unfreeze it quickly enough. This looks like some kind of experiment at school or at university, and it doesn't seem humane to me. Yeah, I understand it's science, but you know perfectly well what a result is. Why do you have to torture an animal? Hey, even the most tenacious fish have a limit. They can't survive the freezing if it lasts too long. What but how could someone think of something like that? And if we take a look at the comments and social media, I'm not the only one who doesn't understand this. The management of the park, of course, said that the fish were already dead and couldn't be eaten, blah blah blah. People didn't appreciate this kind of decoration. Neither did the fish, I think, and the frogs agree with them. Not those frogs that are able to survive low temperatures without any harm. Flat-headed frogs also aren't very happy with people because they're used as flasks. The bodies of these frogs can accumulate water to survive in the desert, and people simply squeeze them when necessary. What do you think about how the frog feels?
It's not easy being green.
Yeah, people often do things that shouldn't be done, and usually nature can't respond to them. But when predators and venomous snakes are powerless, fish come to the rescue. Once Asian carp were brought to North America to clean up some closed reservoirs. But then it all was flooded, and the fish got into the Mississippi River basin and began to multiply very fast. People began to fish them all to save the ecosystem, but you know what happened? They aren't going to give up so easy. You can see how the fish jump out of the water. Maybe they do understand that these fishermen are a threat. Asian carp cause injuries like fractures and brain concussions. And they say that fishing is calm. Well, Asian carp are winning now. After all, who wants to risk their health when they want to put you under the water and kick you with their fins? And then I doubt it. Come on, fish aren't that smart. They can't analyze the situation and attack people like that. They're fish, short memory, no thought in the eyes. But research shows that the question is much more complicated. The aquarium goldfish could remember events for up to 3 months. Also, it knows how to tell the time. The guppies are able to learn. Other species have an excellent sense of space. Not everyone has such abilities. But there, I wanted to joke that fish could be good car drivers, but fish really can drive. Really. There's an aquarium on wheels that helps fish to move on land, where fish swim and the whole aquarium goes there. Yeah, well, in my script it's written that fish know how to use instruments, recognize human faces, and even do ballistic calculations. But I'm afraid to imagine it all. But if fish can drive, I can't believe I'm saying it. But if fish can drive, it's one thing, but humpback whales are another story. They're so smart that they may invent new ways to find food. After all, what could be easier than taking it away from people? One humpback whale goes to the same fishery for many years, and it always comes exactly when it's time to release the fish. While swimming in the ocean, if you know exactly where the food is, each such dinner is very expensive for people. Sometimes it costs millions of dollars, and now just think about it. A whale comes every year, and it always comes alone. So it doesn't tell anybody about this place. It's very smart. And what are you going to do with it? Go to the police to report it. Officer, I've been robbed. The suspect looks like this. It weighs 30 tons, it makes strange sounds, and it's a whale, by the way. Ow! See you later.